I was reborn in the fantasy world, so the story of our hero in the new world began. A blue-eyed baby woke up in the arms of a woman who was his new mother. A maid stood next to him and watched everything. He began to examine the room. This world was far behind in development from Earth. Modest ceilings, candles instead of LED lamps. But despite all this, our hero decided that it was quite a rich estate. 3 years have passed since the rebirth, and the blue-eyed youngster saw the world for the first time from his own room. The world was amazing. It seemed incredibly big even considering the fact that the hero was still a baby. Suddenly, he was noticed by a maid passing along the corridor at that moment. The girl was scared when she saw the baby at the window, then ran up to the baby and picked him up. Then she scolded the boy and took him away from the window. The young man, in turn, asked for forgiveness from the young maid. Our reborn hero was the son of the Grand Duke of Dragonia in the Kingdom of Lionheart, that is, the heir. He found out that his family was part of a grand duchy that was widely known in the kingdom. Time has passed and our boy is already 8 years old. In order to become a knight of the kingdom in the future, his parents invited a holy knight from the palace. His name was Sir Gothic. The guy was delighted with the news that he would become a fantasy knight, and would use the key of the sword and his aura. Leon's teacher was happy and proud to teach the heir, and thanked the goddess for it. More time has passed and our young knight is already 14 years old. His mentor's training was very difficult and seemingly impossible, but the boy coped with them, albeit with difficulty. He understood that such training was quite logical in order to achieve the title, and with such thoughts he continued to work hard. Also, to complete the training, it was necessary to receive orders from the goddess, as a result of which it was possible to become a knight of the kingdom. The commission was not the only condition. After the commission, a rite of initiation with holy water and the Holy Grail was to take place. Therefore, they demanded maximum diligence from our young hero in training. When Leon turned 16, he began to travel the world in order to earn the blessing of the goddess, and become a holy knight. To earn her recognition, it was necessary to become famous throughout the kingdom, thanks to her good deeds. During his journey, our hero practiced a lot in the possession of the sword and did a lot of good deeds, helped many in the kingdom and the world, as a result of which he met a goddess at the age of 20. She was extraordinarily beautiful and young like a real goddess. The young man listened to her every word with admiration. Her name was Ariana. As a result of his journey and all his deeds, Lena received his commission from Ariana, and became a holy knight. After taking the title, he killed, exterminated, destroyed inhumans, slaughtered hordes of evil cultists, and he was named a knight of war and given the right to summon other knights. He had killed 700,000 orcs, including women and children. Leon hated the green inhumans with all his heart. When our hero was 35 years old, the saint in the flesh, the demigod Arjun, died, His Highness Lionheart. He died fighting an archdemon who was summoned by the Empire. Because of the actions of the magicians of the Empire, the orcs began to run amok even more than they forced people to believe in the gods more and live righteously. After the death of the king, there was a question about the receiver. Among all the chaos that was at that moment, the goddess Ariana decided to choose our hero as the heir to the throne. So Leon Dragonia, a holy knight who served the goddess faithfully, became the new king. It was a very honorable and exhausting role, but he could not let down the people of the kingdom who hoped for me. She also implanted the lion's heart treasure into the new king, and entrusted the protection of the Holy Grail. It has been a long time since our hero ascended the throne, and now he is already 80 years old. A lot has happened during this time. 3 great wars with the orcs have passed, some strange hunchbacked goblin has evolved into an archdemon, and the Empire has sent even more troubles to our lands. All this was due to the fact that the Empire accepted the northern cultists. Leon was furious because of the Empire that turned away from the gods, and decided to seize it. At the 96th year of our hero's life, the Empire achieved its goal. The Emperor crossed the line and took 3 million lives of the imperial capital with him to the grave, and the Lord of Chaos was born. After that, King Leon called all the knights and moved to the territory of the Empire. Our famous man, together with his knights, tried to defeat evil, but he could not stop them, so he met the 121st year of his life in the fantasy world. In winter, the king gathered all possible troops in order to fight the evil that was on the doorstep and at home, and the last battle with the countless army of demons took place. Barbarian slaves were used as human shields, while ordinary knights, armed with spears and shields, died with honor fighting side by side with famous knights. And our hero Leon, chosen by all the gods and sacred temples, fought alone with the demons until the very end. Killed countless demon lords and archdemons, showing them the power of the Holy Knight. Winter never ended, but time went on and on. From the 217th to the 256 years, all this time there were only one battles without respite. This year he destroyed the last remaining demonic gates. They had nowhere to retreat, like our hero who was stuck with them. Locked up with the demons, he cut and killed them one by one, and now he has slain the archdemon. Turning around, he saw people who were very surprised by him. They saw a man who struck down an archdemon with one blow. So our hero Leon met people from the earth 300 years after his rebirth in the fantasy world. In the center of Seoul, the gates of an unprecedented black color opened. The Korean and World Hunters Association asked the major guilds of the countries to take part in the raid, but the requests were rejected due to the fact that the level of danger was unknown. In the end, the government ordered the local Hunters Association to enter first, which was to go to certain death. Kanhari, a young and red-haired girl, went there. She was sent by the assistant hunters to the Black Gate with them. When they entered there, they fought with demons of high ranks, and then met an archdemon. Even S-rank hunters could not cope with him, and as a result, the young girl thought that this was the end. At that moment, an unknown person appeared. She saw a man. He was standing all naked and in the blood of an archdemon whom he struck down with one blow, which led her very much into a stupor. The girl thought that this was the end of her life, but an unknown person saved her and a couple of hunters. A couple of days have passed since that incident, and our heroes are sitting in the office of the Hunters Association. Junior manager Han Hari is sitting remembering what happened, and a general manager named Kim Jinsu approaches her. He brought her coffee and noticed her concern, after which he asked her about that day inside the Black Gate. Khan told him about what she saw, which the general manager did not believe. This was to be expected because the gate was rated black rank, in which the archdemon himself was present. To return alive without the help of other guilds is already a miracle, but to clear alone is simply unimaginable. Leon was sitting in the interrogation room next door where the managers were talking. Our hero told them that he was a survivor from the other world. Is it possible to survive in the demon world alone? Everyone asked this question and heard what the young guy said. The gates that have appeared all over the world over the past 30 years have common features. The truth is that those worlds were on the path of destruction, or had already been completely destroyed. Sometimes survivors from other worlds managed to get to Earth, preserving the incredible power they received in the demon realms. The government tried its best to meet the needs of the survivors, and developed plans for their exploration. Han says she needs to scout out the guy she met in the demon realm because he's incredibly strong. The fact is that Leon killed an archdemon who puts the most experienced S-rank hunters into a stupor. Kim also added that he was concerned about the difference in culture. He immediately noticed how an unknown person behaves, and concluded that he was of royal blood. Despite this, our heroine is confident, there is no reason to worry, and she is also confident that he is a kind person. She realized this when she heard his voice, and then it made her happy. Abruptly after her words, Leon jumps up in a rage and breaks through the glass that should deter even demons. The man who interrogated him dared to say something bad about the glorious name of Leonhardt, after which he asked for forgiveness in front of him. Kim and Han are sitting in great shock thinking about their words. Returning 10 to 15 minutes earlier, we observe the beginning of the interrogation, on which our hero remembers who he was before rebirth, how he worked until exhaustion, and from what he died. After that, he was reborn in another world where he became a night king for more than a century. When he conquered the world of demons, he began hunting them, which lasted 200 years. A total of 300 years have passed since he was on Earth. He is glad that his memories of Earth remain, but decides not to disclose this fact. And he tells the man who was sent to interrogate him to address him as, Your Majesty, and called him a peasant. The man in the tuxedo smilingly agrees to this. Leon understands that he is playing along, but he cannot decide out of kindness or out of caution to such survivors as himself. He is asked about the incident inside the gate, namely, he killed all those demons, to which the guy responds positively. After that, he offers to become a person from the association to become his personal deacon and record this glorious incident, to which the person does not know how to react because of the difference in culture. After an awkward silence, our hero asks about etiquette, how to treat royalty, translated into human means that he is hungry. They immediately decided to prepare food for him and bring it as soon as possible. While they were waiting for this, the Night King asked to tell about this world, thinking to himself that he needs to know what has changed on Earth in his absence. They started telling him that this nightmare started suddenly 30 years ago. Gates began to open all over the world, and monsters and demons appeared from them. After that, humanity was constantly in a state of emergency. Having suffered heavy losses, they realized that the gate has its own themes and clear goals, and when the gate is left unattended, a dungeon breakthrough occurs, because of which monsters invade the Earth. At this moment, food is brought. Our hero thought about the fact that there are differences in the behavior of demons from his world. In his world, they appeared like mushrooms after rain, and on Earth, it was as if a gate had been created for testing. It's like they want to teach people something with all these tests. And at this moment a tray with food is placed in front of him. He was very surprised to see what he saw on the tray. On the tray was solentane, which was the food of his soul for him when he was a loafer. People tend to enjoy the food they know and love compared to new food. But despite this, Leon restrained himself and knocked over the plate with anger. He was angry that the royal person was given a peasant's dish. After that, he drove away the association's agent and decided that even if he was an Earthman, he returned to Earth as Leon Dragonia Leonhardt, the embodiment of the very history of the 300-year war. And I realized one thing, that the Earth is a complete mess, because there is no correct religious faith, and it is the duty of the king to initiate peasants into this. Even though he had returned to Earth, he was still a Night King. A little while later on the same day, the king is having dinner with a steak with red wine, which was made in 1993. Kim wondered how His Highness knew our food? But looking at this, they breathed a sigh of relief when he began to eat the steak. The general manager sends Han to try again to communicate with Leon, because before that she brought him a steak and received a compliment in her address. He said that she was brave. At first, the girl was scared and did not want to go because she was bad in the historical dialect, but after learning that she had been complimented, she decided to go. After entering, she tries in every possible way to address His Majesty politely, to which he reacts calmly and recognizes her, calling her a swordswoman from a recent event. He asks her to sit down, which made the young girl very happy. She began to wonder if the king liked the food, to which he would respond positively, and was satisfied. Adding to this that the reason why Leon annoyed everyone was not because of the modest food, but because of the attitude towards the king. The red-haired girl turned pale from shock and realized that due to lack of knowledge, she showed disrespect to him. But our hero understood everything and quickly turned the conversation to a new topic. First he found out her name, and then they discussed the situation that was happening on Earth. Hari had his own task, namely to get him to join the Hunters Association. She needs him to at least stay in our country, because the motive of any country in the 21st century is the search for survivors. No matter what kind of support they promise them, all countries want to get their strength. The girl asked for His Majesty's permission, and then the South Korean government will be able to take care of him. Our hero understood everything and decided that if he settled in this world, he was forced to go to the battlefield. However, Leon added that the king cannot be a soldier in the army of another state, and decided to create a new order of chivalry in this world. In response, Hari could only nod, after which their conversation ended and she left the interrogation room. Kim was waiting for her and listened to their entire conversation and had already informed the higher ranks, to which they agreed to the conditions so long as he did not leave the country and did not join the big guild. Hari hated guilds because they had a lot of resources and money to attract strong hunters and survivors. Having started a conversation about guilds, the man remembers about the Phoenix Guild, and at that moment the alarm goes off. Their smartphones received a message about a breakthrough in the dungeon on the plains of Honam. A granary has been laid out there, and if a breakthrough occurs, the demons will stop the production of food. But our young girl remembers that there is an S-rank hunter named Lee Yunwan SSI in the Phoenix Guild, and assumes that he must cope with the Orange Gate. But Kim is sure that the guild has a completely different plan, and says that they should solve this problem as quickly as possible. Leon heard and caught everything that was being said outside the door. He realized that breaking through the dungeon would destroy the vault, and there would be no harvest. Thinking about the situation, our hero sharply recalls a girl in a green cape who was interested in whether he was okay and turned to him with a smile at that moment. Our hero casually pronounces the name of that girl, Demera. We are transported to the place where the gate opened. Guilds and the Hunters Association have already gathered at the scene of what is happening. From the Phoenix Guild there was a squad led by the same Li Yunwang who was the guild master of the Phoenix Guild. Department head Kim and newcomer Han Hari arrived to meet him. They immediately realized that the guild had made a breakthrough due to disagreements between them. The fact is that the association did not accept the request of the guild, which asked to exempt them from taxes from the gate. They had a lot of profits from the magic crystals and materials obtained at the gate, and they wanted to be exempt from paying taxes in the amount of 1 trillion. They did not like the refusal of the association and decided to do nothing when the gates opened, so that their conditions would be accepted if they wanted to save the harvest. This made Khan Hari very angry, and she began to talk about the possible consequences of their inaction, which he did not deny with all his might. The guild master said that his members were injured and unable to conduct raids, which made the girl even more angry. Li Yun reminded the girl of the words from the last call, namely that in this world justice is money and power. At this point, our hero appears and calls Li Yun shallow and old-fashioned. The girl did not think out of surprise called the king by name, to which he told her to keep herself in hand as he communicates with the royal person. The guild master in surprise asks Leon if he is a Westerner, in response to which he is told to close his mouth. The king began to get angry because some insignificant person dares to talk to him in such a tone. At which Li Yun also starts to get angry, because he is one of the 20 S-rank hunters in the world and the guild master of one of the top 10 guilds was called a non-entity. In a fit of anger, he begins to cast spells on our hero, but Hari stops him and says something, survivor. And the man's anger abruptly changes to mercy and submission. He begins to politely ask for forgiveness and ask questions, but Leon does not pay attention. The Night King asks to tell about the situation that has formed in the harvest fields. The girl brings him up to speed by telling him that when a dungeon is breached, when a breakthrough occurs, a large amount of demonic energy comes out and infects the earth. And crops do not grow on the infected land. The Honami plain is an important granary, so it is very important to save this plain and the harvest on it. Right now, demonic energy is spreading and infecting the earth. Leon immediately asks about the solution to the problem, to which the girl replies that it is necessary to clear the infection and clear the dungeon as soon as possible, and they should completely get rid of the dungeon. After hearing this, the hero asks to summon their forces and get permission from the president of the country for the actions of the king in their country. Because the king of a foreign country cannot conduct military operations on foreign territory and at his discretion. Everyone is shocked by what our hero said, and they try to explain that everything is fine and there is no need for this, to which he responds, there should be a legal process and rules and everything. In the end, they receive permits, and the next day in the camp near the breakthrough. Our Khan Hari approaches Leon. She says that she prepared as our hero ordered her. However, she does not understand why they need a straw doll. He begins to explain that their land is infected and a doll will help to clean it. The doll was one of the conditions. The second condition was that these dolls should be made by women who gave birth. They gathered hundreds of women on the plains and so the doll contest began. After numerous failures, the hero finds an old lady with a perfect doll. He asks how many children she has given birth to which she answers 12. The king thanks her for her efforts and apologizes for not being able to thank her better, and kisses her on the hand. After all, he goes to the center of the infected land. Put the doll on a tray with 2 candles in the corners. All the conditions have been met, and our hero begins to summon an empty bowl, and puts it next to the doll. After that, he begins to recite a prayer, calling on the mother of this abundant land, the people of this land offer you this harvest doll, accept it. And the bowl begins to glow, and will fill with water by itself. The sun rises, red light colors the clouds, a new day wants to begin. However, the sun that rises today will be a special beginning of this world. Everyone turned their gaze to the doll, which stood up by itself when the water from the bowl soaked into it. Leonhard greets her. It was the very goddess of life and abundance, Demera. After greeting each other, they discuss that evil is also invading this land and the lands here are infected. Leon says that there are evil species here, but there is no deity, so he is afraid that inferior and vulgar people can stain the eyes of the goddess. Demera says that it is not necessarily possible to evaluate it as sins and it is inherent in all mortals. And he also asks about his future plans, to which the hero replies that it is not difficult for him to mix with swordsmen, but the authority of the conqueror is divine. He decided to make sure that duty and power were on an equal footing here. He will teach the ignorant, and guide them on the right path until a new pantheon appears on this earth. She asks if he has any requests for her, and asks to heal the earth, because the free citizens of this earth are suffering because of evil energy. The goddess accepts his request, and heals the earth in front of everyone with just one drop of her soul and blesses these lands. Leon calls on all those watching to watch and learn, and suddenly the dying crop and the land itself were healed. Everyone was happy and amazed, but suddenly Li Yun urges not to believe everything that people have seen. He says that the crops grown with the help of magic are poisonous. This angered Leon. The very fact that the blessed harvest is considered poison infuriates him. He turns to Li Yun, and tells him that only once can he forgive ignorance, and orders not to defame the goddess. The guild master was afraid that his plan would collapse because of Leon, and decided to expose him and his magic. At all, he decides to provide an appraiser from his guild who will evaluate the rice. Using magic, he opens the rice parameters and learns that it is blessed rice. The rank of rice is rare, and in the description it is written that rice is blessed by the deity Demira, the goddess of life and fertility. It can also cure diseases of the third level with repeated use. After hearing all this, Kim decides to cook rice and asks to bring him a pot from the chief's house. After they cooked a pot of rice and started eating, and the effect exceeded all their expectations. Rice gave a stamina recovery rate of 100 every minute, a mana recovery rate of 50 every minute. The duration of the total is 8 hours. It was comparable to an expensive potion. The cost of such a potion was 3 million won per bottle. Hari runs up to the general manager without having lived and says that this is a sensation. She is asked to live and talk normally, which she did. She said that she ate a beetle from these lands and got a buff. Kim came to the conclusion that if this blessing is really all over the earth, then there is nothing strange if all living beings are also blessed. After that, they decided to collect as many bugs as possible and use buffs for raids. The motivation of the hunter raid team has increased. Leon thanks the goddess for her help, and she finally decided to give him advice. She asks him not to forget to eat well, and disappears. Hari approaches our hero and he asks her, "Is there no deity on earth?" To which she finds it difficult to answer, and he says that the right life and the world are created with the help of divine power. And they'd better figure it out as soon as possible. And after the conversation, the hunter troops gather at the gate, but at this time the guild master is furious. His plans were ruined by Leon, and this infuriates him. And the idea comes to him to kill the king inside the gate. He mistook him for a blessing-type buffer, and is bad in battle. There is a monster lurking inside the gate, which, as Li Yun might have thought, our hero could not handle together with Han Hari, who was A rank. We were moved to a time when all the troops and the Night King entered the dungeon. Before them stood a gaze of hundreds of corpses, a gloomy dungeon that made it clear that there was no place for every ordinary person. It was cool and smelled of death. Everyone was on guard and were ready that someone would attack them, except for our hero. It felt like he was on a walk. He was thinking about how to close the gate, and it was explained to him that to do this, you need to complete a quest or defeat the dungeon boss. The knight likes the idea of a duel with the boss very much, and Hari goes ahead, who could not tell him that they usually gather in a group, and does not find the courage to tell him. As they went deeper into the dungeon, they realized that despite what they had already tried to clean up the dungeons, but there were much more monsters than they thought. Such was the peculiarity of this dungeon, the young huntress began to explain. Our hero was surprised that there are features in the dungeons, and Hari told him that as long as the boss himself is alive, then zombies or skeletons and even demons in special cases will endlessly respawn. The blue-eyed knight realized that the end of the raid would be after defeating the boss. She put forward the idea that it was a necromancer controlling skeletons, but she wasn't sure about it. Abruptly, a warning appeared during the conversation. The dungeon breakthrough began, in which there were two news. Firstly, all living beings within the gate will now have a time limit. Secondly, the Knight Commander Dullahan is coming with his army. And at the end, the main task was written, to defeat the Knight Commander Dullahan, and the remaining time for all this is 3 hours. And suddenly the same dungeon boss appeared in front of them, and everyone immediately realized that this was part of Li Yun's plan to warn them about it. Dullahan himself was on a black horse and black armor, and he himself was in all black and his eyes shone with a blue light, as if death itself was in front of them. The skeleton army was too big, The hunter army quickly regrouped to attack and defend by distributing potions among everyone, but the highest ranks were in priority. They immediately began to consider the number of distant warriors. An archer among the hunters named Ma Sik managed to use the power of his left eye, and he noticed 30 archers and 2 magicians. The chief hunter under whose command the troops were, gave the order that people with the skill of sniper shooting had to destroy the warriors of the long-range type of attack in the enemy camp. The others who had shields should stop their advance, all prepared for the enemy's attack. The battle began. Kim was in the front ranks and commanded the army. After the first blow of the skeleton on his shield, he realized that the skeletons were stronger than it seemed. That's what the orange gate means. But despite this, he was a B-rank tank that could handle them. In the distance, the hunter saw 2 skeletons that could use advanced spells so that they would not attack the people behind him. He decided to attract their attention by shouting. It worked, and they shot a spell at him, but he withstood it despite the power of the spell, all due to the fact that he had quite expensive equipment. It would seem that they can cope, but abruptly the boss of the dungeon, Dullahan, appeared in front of the boss Kim. With one blow, he threw the hunter into the wall. He was able to survive the blow even though he was wounded. Reserve forces joined the battle to support Kim, but this was not enough. The assistant chief Hari decided to ask for the help of King Leonhardt, who defeated the archdemon with just one blow. In turn, he refuses, saying that the king should not participate in such a small battle. Leon cannot believe that they are trying to force him to help in the battle against the skeletons, adding that it is rude to the goddess. He tells the young huntress that they must strengthen their honor. The girl was shocked by what was said, and became angry, but could not say anything in response. She realized that she could not waste time on the king. He was only interested in Dullahan, and he did not intend to help them. To begin with, it is necessary to stop the boss. With these thoughts, the assistant chief intervenes in the battle. Before she left, she gave the order to the troops to support the head of Department Kim and their allies. Hari abruptly became focused and rushed into battle with her wedge. She was very fast and skillful in her movements, and jumping away from the first skeleton she came across, she reached Dullahan. The huntress wanted to separate him from the army and entered into battle with him, but he easily repelled all her attacks, despite her strength. Abruptly, the boss tilted his head and blocked her view, and attacked her in response. The Dark Knight throws her aside and follows her. She barely withstood the blow, but no matter what, she managed to tear him away from the crowd. Immediately after that, Hari decides to use a skill designed for a range that was too large. There was a big explosion and he hit the boss. The skill helped, and she had to finish him off with the next attack. She attacked, but the Dark Knight blocked the attack with a blunt blade, and immediately took a stand for a counterattack. Hari was on the verge of death, and a second before the blow was struck, applause sounded from our king. Leon was impressed by the exquisite swordsmanship, despite using only one hand. He was sure that Dullahan had once been a noble knight. The king apologizes for the fact that he could mistake such a great knight for a simple undead. Our hero gives the nameless knight the right to challenge him, and says that there is no need for wounded soldiers. Then summons him to finish this fight with a noble duel between 2 knights. All the hunters were shocked that Leon challenged the boss to a duel. And it worked. Dullahan accepted the challenge to a duel. Both prepare for a duel, and Leon summons his sword. He also says that he can put his head on the ground because his sword needs to be fought with 2 hands. Hari approaches him and explains that in order to defeat the boss, it is necessary to behead him. Our hero does not attach importance to this, which surprised the girl. She thought it was important because how would he defeat Dullahan without beheading him? The king says it doesn't matter, but the honor of the knight determines the winner. Before the start of the duel, the first knight of the goddess of light and justice, the Archduke of Drangnia and the lion-hearted king of Leonhardt, gave his permission to this honorary knight to accept the challenge. The duel began and the Dark Knight rushed at Leon with a swing of his sword, putting his own strength into it, but our hero easily stops him with his sword. The king starts counting the boss's attacks, and he repelled the first attack, after which he pushed him away. Dullahan quickly gets to his feet and rushed again with a new attack and applied even more strength. Hari was afraid for Leon and asked him to dodge, which he did not pay attention to. He noticed that the Dark Knight's steps were too light, and suddenly the boss fell to the ground with great force. This was the second attack. None of the others understood what Leon had done except Hari. She realized that he had changed the balance of weight by tying the sword guard, and the moment the attack touched the wedge, on top of everything else, he managed to cross-strike, and was delighted with this technique. No one would dare to even try to do it, but it's not a problem for him, because of his enormous strength. It's been a long time since Dullahan met someone who treated him like a knight and properly asked for a duel. Anyone would think that this is a trick, having heard the offer to get off the horse to defeat him. But not with this knight, the straight posture and look of a veteran who has survived countless battles, sparkling eyes in which a thirst for honor and glory. He is the pinnacle of a knight's veneration. Dullahan began to have memories of the time when he was a knight, and he did not want to use the powers of a necromancer in this duel. He wanted to fight this man countless times as a knight. And as it should be chivalrous, without necromancy, only my blade against his blade. So once upon a time the Dark Knight did when he traveled the world and fought with honor with many great knights. On the 10th attack, the blade of Dullahan will jump off his hands and fall. Leon noticed that the boss's swordsmanship was becoming more and more accurate, and he was sure that he had regained some of his memories. Leon asked him if he wanted to continue the battle, to which he received the answer no. Dullahan took his head and bowed before the king. He remembered how long he had staged this massacre, how long he had fought without honor, and if he could finish his cursed path in this way, there would be no greater joy for him. Leon was glad that his rival had regained his honor, and promised to pray for him. The king asked the god in whom the knight believed to grant his soul peace, if not, then the goddess would accompany him to the end of the garden. And he wished for everything to meet again someday in the hall of feasts of the gods. Thus, Dullahan was cleared by Leon Dragonia Leonhardt, and the dungeon was cleared. After everything that happened, the main characters gather in the camp and collect all possible loot. Kim and Hari can't believe that Leon kept his promise and defeated the boss without beheading. At the end of the purification, they heard the phrase, "Let there be light." What would that mean? They decided that this was the same divine power, thanks to which the undead disappeared. The girl thinks the king should have used this skill before. Leon overheard their conversation and explained that he could not have done so, otherwise the honorary knight would have met his end as a necromancer. A knight lives for honor, honor comes from actions, and actions come from will. Dullahan got what he deserved as a noble knight. In any case, our hero went to check his loot. Where the battle is, there is loot. After defeating the Dark Knight, our king got a cloak, a crystal ball and a sword. The crystal ball contained quite a huge amount of mana, and it could be sold for a lot of money. After looking into the ball, Leon did not like it and he destroyed it. What upset everyone was the fact that they couldn't sell this balloon. The king explained that such things only create chaos. The final results of this raid, the gates of Honam, have been cleared. 4 days have passed since Leon's return to Earth. A lot has happened in such a short period of time. First, there was a small problem because of taxes. Our hero refused to pay them to Hari, arguing that it was not appropriate for a royal person from another country to pay them. Secondly, followers also appeared on the divine earth. The king explained that they needed to pay tithes, that is, 19 trillion or 90% of income as tithes. But many were shocked by this, because taxes and accommodation took away quite a lot of earnings. In turn, the young man wonders why the followers of the goddess will starve at all. Social security, accommodation, food and other things will be handled by the Leon Guild. Hari explained to her followers that the market value of divine rice is estimated at 1.5 billion for 80 kilograms. After hearing this, the followers immediately believed. But the biggest problem was Leon's place of residence. He fiercely demanded a luxurious bed, servants who would always be there, and a painting that he could admire at any moment. The girl had to look for a 5-star hotel until 2 in the morning, and they came to a compromise in the form of a painting or a vase in the room. So 4 days of the king's stay on Earth have passed, and this all brings us to the present moment. Hari herself became his assistant, and now she brings him breakfast, and is interested in his condition. He responds positively and asks a counter question, did she have breakfast? She hadn't had breakfast yet, and was thinking of doing it after Leon had breakfast. The girl brought breakfast and decided to leave the king alone. But he stopped her and asked why she was leaving, because he decided to share breakfast with her. But all this turned out to be a mistake invented by Hari herself. He was waiting for her to prepare food for the reception, but she thought that he decided to share, which angered him. After breakfast, our hero decided to move to a more appropriate place of residence. The Hunters Association decided to provide him with auxiliary funding and assistance in resettlement. While they were getting to their new place of residence, Hari once again asked for the loot, and Leon replied that he would like to keep only the cloak for himself, and let everyone else sort it out herself. They got to their destination. The building was next to the Hunters Association, and there was a helipad on the roof, which was very convenient. Waiting for them in the lobby was a man who introduced himself as the director of the company. Food of the Future Dojin, named Park Jan-chan. It was one of the best companies from the chaebols of this country. The director communicates to Leon and holds out his hand to him, which leads to the conclusion that he knew about the arrival of our hero and was waiting for him. But in response, the king did not want to shake his hand and looked at him with contempt. After that, together with Hari, they went up to the knight's new apartment. The girl explained that the association offers you this place for a whole year. The association takes care of utilities and rent, so there is no reason to worry. There will also be room service and servants, which the king could use at any time. At that moment, she felt relieved because of the situation that had occurred in the lobby. Information about the survivors is kept strictly secret. In a situation where Park Jang-chan's intentions were unclear, Hari was glad that Leon ignored his offer. She asked our hero why the director wanted to meet with him, to which he replied that a merchant always needs one thing. This man sought to benefit from the sacred rice from the Hanami plains. Everything was supposed to be kept secret, but due to the urgency of the situation, information management was not going very well. There was even a streamer who filmed everything that happened, and the association demanded that the recording be deleted. But the streamer under the nickname Farmer Pack uploaded it again after a while. Because of this, all the secrets of the association about this situation were known to the rest. We are transferred to the company of Park Jan-chan, where he discusses with his subordinates the usefulness of this rice. They tested it first on animals, and as a result all the rats were cured. After that, the assistant director added that they would go to the farm to meet with the owner to find out more information. But suddenly the dying dog was completely cured before our eyes, and people with chronic diseases and colds felt better after eating rice. All the ailments were cured after they ate this rice. The director was happy to hear that the effect exists and is strong, but he was sharply enraged by how Leon treated him and humiliated him with it. The assistant reminds them that they need this rice, so his strength is simply immeasurable, to which Park Jan-chan agrees and decides to meet with the king again. He decides to overload our hero with culture shock and force him to reckon with the director. We return to our hero, and remember what the Night King is going to do. Back on Earth, Leon set himself 3 goals. First, to spread faith and divinity. There are many gods and their followers on Earth, but what is really important, divine power does not exist here. It is supposed that God should accept the faith of people and bless the world, but instead people get sick and the lands are polluted. Therefore, in order to use the divine power, a new faith is needed, and therefore it is necessary that more people believe in the new God. Second, to recreate the army of the Knights of the Shrines. There is no organization of fighters using divine power in this world. If the guardian of the Holy Grail, King Leonhardt, is considered a demigod, then the Knights of the Shrines are saints. They are knights of the gods, using divine power, terrifying evil. The third is to destroy all the evil flourishing on this earth, restore the divine power, and recreate the Knights of the Shrines. It is necessary to spread the faith, maintain balance and order in the pantheon in order to educate the Knights of the Shrines. Our hero was thinking about this while looking out the window from his penthouse. He thought it was too much for this world, but he didn't care. He considered it his duty to the gods. Suddenly Hari comes to him with a report. She says that someone has officially asked to meet with him, to which Leon responds positively if it is someone who has gone through all the necessary procedures. This someone was Park Jan-chan. He agreed to all the humiliations in order to get what he wanted. The director brought a modest gift, as a result of which, as he believed, the king would be very surprised. This is a first-class subject, which a savage could not even dream of, so Jan-chan believed. Having tried it, he would not be able to resist them right away. The director believed that with such a gesture he could become Leon's manager. He accepts a gift for something. The man asks the king to check what is inside the box, to which Leon, in turn, has no desire to teach the etiquette of the director. And Hari orders to open the box, Which he does, and it turned out that there were elite weapons inside the box, which the company is proud of. John Chan wanted the hero to choose one of the weapons presented. The young assistant of our king was very surprised by these things. Previously she could only see them on the internet. These weapons were created by the masters of doujin groups, and they can't even be bought with money. Our hero asked in an angry tone where he should use this low-rank weapon. Everyone was shocked to hear such a question and did not know what to answer it. It is impossible to make a good sword without the aura of the stars or the holy blessing, Leon believed. No one understood what he was talking about, and thought that swords should be dried in the sun as they do with pepper and prey. The merchant tries to convince the king, and he agrees to test the weapon against his own. He pulls out his old sword that looked old and dirty after going through a lot of battles. The director asks Kanhari to use his weapon, being sure that his weapon is much better. Before she agrees to this, the girl waits for Leon's permission, to which he gives his approval. She chose a sword that she admired for a long time, the sword of Master Park Jin-Kul, Dawn. The young huntress felt the power of a sword that absorbed the energy of a special gate for 10 days. She asked permission to use the sword on the king's sword, to which he replied, she did not need permission to swing the toy. Such statements make the merchant very angry, but he continues to endure. Our hero substitutes his sword for the test of the director's sword. Kanhari gathers all his strength and makes a swing with his sword and then hits the knight's sword. As a result, the merchant's sword breaks in half, which proves Leon right. He begins to consider this meeting a waste of time, and reduces it to 3 minutes. The director is in a panic because his best sword was broken like a wooden sword. He has little time to come up with something else, and he decides to say everything directly. John Chan wants the patent rights to the rice fields, and offers 180 billion won for them. But in fact they are worth much more, but he thought that the savage of their other world would go crazy from such numbers. The king was enraged by such a proposal, because money cannot buy divine rice. Proposals of this kind offend the gods themselves. The director felt a terrifying aura in front of him. Like a huge evil lion in front of him, he felt death. The director fell to his knees in tears. But despite all the power of the king, he asked what is his sin. Leon never ceases to be amazed at the ignorance and uncivilism of this man, and began to explain to him. The harvest he was talking about was grown on land blessed by the goddess Demira herself. This blessing was given as a reward to farmers who sweated and worked in the fields. It's not something money can buy. A noble heart and faith are what is required as payment. Leon called the merchant an insignificant creature who chases only for profit and deceives others in the process. And immediately asked him why he wanted to possess the divine resources of a goddess he didn't believe in. With that, the meeting came to an end and evening came. Hari holds something packed in his hands and approaches Leon, and wonders if it was worth letting Park John Chan go. He may have been insignificant, but still an influential person. To which our hero replies that there is no need for worries, since such a person will not do anything to him. After that, the knight asks about his request. He would like to come to the screening test to find useful soldiers. The girl tells him that it will be a difficult task, but he insists on making it possible. On the morning of the next day, we meet an independent D-rank hunter Gu Dae-sung. He meets a rather old team manager Kim Do-han on the street. In the lobby of the Hunters Association, they talk about the test. The team manager asks the hunter if he really came for a repeat test? To which he responds positively, thinking to himself that those who are not talented reach C rank, but he has been D rank for 10 years. The old man offers him to join his team of miners, and this is not so bad, since the guy is devoted to his work and good at it, he would quickly become an ace. But Dae-sun refuses and wants to achieve more, because it can be difficult to pay interest for dungeon raids, so he can't give up. A young guy needs to rise at least to C rank in order to stop being a burden, so he thought. While this couple was talking to each other, our hero came into the hall. They noticed him, thought he was a foreigner. He looked lighter than the others and did not look like a Korean. The manager came up to greet him, but the king behaved like a king, which puzzled everyone. Suddenly Leon's gaze fell on Dae-sun. He was looking at him very intently, which scared the guy. The young hunter felt an incredible aura and stopped breathing. At that moment he realized that something great was standing in front of him. At the same moment, the hunter was called into the interview room. The Night King did not come here in search of strong people, but in the end he did not meet anyone worthy to be his soldier. First of all, the only people who come to take these tests are low-ranking hunters or people who have recently awakened, so our hero reasoned. And I decided to observe a little more, after which I went to my interview room. The interview itself was a low thing for him, since he was a king, but there was no choice. The examiners met him in the room and asked him to put his hand on the measuring device for the test. He refused because the machine could not measure the honor and strength of a knight. Only a noble knight, and the gods can measure the strength of knights. Leon openly says that he came here to look for worthy soldiers, but was completely disappointed. The king found out that the next test is at the Gates of Soul. He went there in search of soldiers because he believed that real skills are manifested through consistent training and real situations. There are many newcomers in Gu Day's song standing at the gate itself and preparing to enter the gate. Gates that have already been cleared are usually closed, but some remain open for similar situations, such as the Soul Gate. Preparing for the test, the guy thought to himself that the test is the same as last year, and he needs to get the best result. Turning around, he noticed two newcomers, a young girl and a guy. Next to him was an old man of about 60, all of them were D or C rank. And the last one who approached them was Leon himself. He looked young despite his age, and many decided that he was also a beginner. Dae-song wondered if everything would be fine. Before starting, the hunters decided to get to know each other. The first one introduced himself to Gu Dae-song. He told about his rank and class of warrior. His main position is mediator. Then a young novice introduced himself. His name was Shin Tae-hoon, and he just woke up fighting with a spear and a shield. Next to him was his sister Shin Na-yeon, who also just woke up and used daggers and just started learning how to use a bow and arrow. Dae-song realized that they were complete ignoramuses in this matter, and he was not happy about it. Behind them, an old man introduced himself. His name was Oh Kang-tae, and he has been working as a hunter for the 5th year. Fights with gloves. Hearing this, the guy was even more saddened, since the old man's experience did not correlate with age. Besides, it would be difficult for him to fight at a distance that can be held with a sword or spear. Well, the last one was our hero, who refused to fight at all. Using a sword that can cut down a dragon to hunt chickens is too humiliating, he thought. After that, they all went to pass the test. They had the task of defeating 50 kobolds. If gnolls show up on the battlefield, the examiner may find it very dangerous and intervene to help. At the front of the group was Gu Dae-song, followed by his brother and sister, and the last old man with Leon. Dae-sung was worried that the king did not take any weapons, although Na-yeon offered him his bow, but he refused. For a knight is not supposed to use long-range weapons. Because of this, the guy was worried that they might fail the test. He invited the group to go to a location that he knows and where they can hunt normally. Everyone decided to listen to him since he had more experience than the others. Tae-hoon runs up to him and offers to pay attention to the village nearby, to which the hunter explains. If you go to the village with their small group, you can get ambushed and they will be surrounded, after which it will be almost impossible to get out. He suggested hunting kobolds that live in caves. They will set fire to grass or leaves nearby and smoke them out of caves, and then they will easily cope with them. Everyone is delighted with Dae-sung's plan and his experience. But he considered such tactics not a reason for pride, but he was ready to do anything to rise in rank, and therefore studied all kinds of manuals and methods of attack. Suddenly, kobolds appeared in front of them, who noticed and rushed at the group of hunters. At first, they managed to fight off the monsters, but then Tae-hoon felt superior, relaxed and distracted. His sister warned him about the danger, but he reacted too late. The kobold jumped on him and knocked him down, but he was saved by Dae-song. After that, they talked to a group of kobolds one by one thanks to the efforts of Na-yeon and Kang-tae. Dae-song was glad that the group could handle this test, but there was another person who did not participate. The whole group was angry at Leon, and the examiner said that he would take his behavior into account in the exam results. Nevertheless, they went on to the cave. When they reached it, they used the plan that Dae-song had suggested earlier. Leon approached him and asked him if he was sure about this plan. He got angry about something. Dae-sung was angry that the hero was standing there all the time and didn't help, and now he suddenly started talking. The Night King considered how a guy could rely on a plan that was based on experience, which was very little. The hunter ignores Leon and lights the grass, asking everyone to get ready. The kobolds rushed out of the cave and our group began to meet them. At first the plan worked, and there was a feeling that they would cope. But suddenly there was a roar, and it was the Knoll captain. He was the boss of the Seoul Station gate, and our heroes did not expect to meet him here. Dae-sung quickly figured out a new plan, in which he and Tae-hoon take on the Knoll captain, and the old man and Na-yun will deal with the kobolds from the cave. Although this plan was too risky for a young hunter without a rank, but Dae-sung believed that he would cope with the task. But Tae-hoon froze in fear at the sight of the boss, and could not move. In this state, he could not block the monster's blow and his life was in danger, but the examiner was inactive. Then Dae-sun decides to save the young guy and blocks the blow, saving him, immediately followed by a second even stronger blow, and knocks down the hunter's defense. But he quickly returns to the defense stance, and then the boss makes a third strike. At this moment, Dae-sung realizes that they have failed the test and may not even be able to survive. But Leon saves them by stopping the attack with one finger. The king encourages the guy to try again, because he has already fought with him, and what prevents him from trying again. But the hunter in a panic says that he is not aware of the situation. This enraged the king and he begins to scold the guy. As a result, Dae-sung decides to fight to survive. The boss keeps attacking harder, and Leon gives advice to the hunter. He needs to use his shield and not attack first, but repel the attack and wait for the moment. He urges him not to bury his potential, but to use it, because he can do better. Dae-sun believed in the words of our hero and he repels the attack as Leon suggested to him, but without noticing the whole picture, he misses the blow with his paw. But the result was there, and he has a lot to grow. Unfortunately, as a result, he was unable to raise his rank. After the test, Leon was sitting in a cafe with an examiner, whom he had bitten off from the very beginning. The examiner turned out to be the director of the Hunters Association of South Korea named Oh Kang-hyuk. The director is interested in whether the tests were useful for the king, to which he answered positively. He found a candidate for himself, and added that he should not worry, since he was not going to go abroad. Kang-hyuk was surprised that Leon understood everything and continued the conversation. He knew that the knight intended to create his own guild and said that the association was ready to support him. He was also impressed by the hero's strength in the exam. He explained that to create a guild, you need a reputation, and there are not so many ways to get it in their days. And she starts telling him about the gates to Jeju that turned red because of an unsuccessful raid. For a year, no one has been able to clean them up in order to get or destroy the Stone of Wisdom, which is protected by the boss of the Red Gate's spinner Psycho. We are transported inside the Jeju Gate. A group of people from the KR Guild begins a raid. At the head of the group was a guild master and a couple of other high-ranking hunters. When they entered the gate, they saw a world similar to the future, where technologies have gone ahead of the current ones on Earth. One of the hunters suggested that everything looks like cyberpunk. They decided to regroup to create a plan and found a building for the headquarters, which was higher than the others and gave a great overview of the area. Having climbed the building, they noticed that there were no people or monsters and this alarmed them. She could also see the boss himself, which was a very bad sign. The guild master begins to give instructions and makes up commands for intelligence and work in the headquarters. He does not have time to finish as he is killed by an unknown enemy. Panic began and many began to run away in different directions. No one had time to figure out the situation, only the silhouette of the robot was noticeable. They realized that they cannot cope and begin to retreat to regroup. But at the exit they were waiting for a trap in the form of threads that ordinary people could not notice. There were fewer and fewer of them, but despite this, they made their way further. Suddenly a rocket flies into them and only one survivor remains. He calls for the enemy to appear, and the boss himself stands in front of him. Suddenly there is a memory of a girl who is holding weapons for a robot in her hands, and she is sure when the ammunition runs out, the robot will be able to fight on. And the boss kills the last hunter, as a result of which 58 people were killed in this raid. There are no survivors. This was the first raid into the Jeju Gate, and after 2 more unsuccessful raids, this gate was given a red level, because of the only boss in the gate. We are transported back to our time where 2 groups of people have gathered. Some look like barbarians from the guild, the second look like government people in expensive suits. One of the group was a guild in the top 10 guilds, the first, Golden Roar, with Guild Master Hwang Jiam Chel, an S-rank hunter, and his deputy Huang Yongha, an A-rank hunter, and 47 guild members. The second magic tower, led by Guild Tae-sun, has an S-rank and 48 mercenaries. And also with them were Kanhari and Leon, who was drinking tea made by a girl. Our heroes are located at the headquarters of the 4th raid group of the Jeju Gate. While drinking tea, the hero noticed Huri's agitation and asked what was the matter. She worries that it will not go as smoothly as she would like, and admits that the best option would be if His Majesty does not interfere in what is happening, but in this case he will not be able to become famous. Leon agrees with her and asks a question about the duties of the king. She assumes that this is the rule, with which he agrees and adds that anyone can take on this role. Only if he has pride, in this all rulers are similar. And then the girl realized that the king intervened when the attack could not be blocked. And she realized that it was the duty of the lion-hearted king to be a reliable shield. And if the king enters the battle, it is a disgrace for the knight and an indicator that the situation is very serious. And most likely he will have to join the fight this time, because the group is full of weaklings. To which the girl was surprised, because there are a lot of S-rank hunters here. Leon agrees, as hunters they are strong for ordinary people, but they have not seen a real war. He is confident in the failure of the raid, as in just 3 attempts they are confident of victory this time. But at the same time, they did not analyze the behavior of monsters and did not take the necessary measures. Any general knows how to act according to the situation, and the hunters don't even have a plan. And as far as Leon knows, this spinner is a crazy talented strategist. And a sudden missile attack on the base of the raid group. After that, the boss's memories appear where the dying girl asks him for forgiveness and asks for the last favor. Namely, to eliminate all unidentified creatures that have arrived in the city. The boss attacks the base by making constant attacks from his guns. As a result, 23% of the group was killed, and then the robot changed tactics and opened fire. The robot has 48% charge left. And then the boss is attacked by a gemshell and manages to damage him. The robot focuses on the hunter, and decides to get rid of the interference. And just as he starts attacking, Yong Hae appears and hits the robot again, and damages it even more. And immediately this is followed by a lightning attack from Tae-sun, after which the robot analyzes the enemy and gives everyone the 3rd level, and begins to retreat. Retreating, he continued firing, and the blonde mercenary has to activate the distortion area. A ball is created that changes the trajectory of the projectiles, but the robot develops new tactics and calculated at what angle the projectiles can pass, as a result of which the ball does not save people. The group decides to disable the protective skill and realizes that the robot was not running away, but was building a trap of their threads so that no one would escape. There was a feeling that it was a spider that enveloped the territory with its web and trapped everyone. The boss starts charging a huge cannon on his back. People realize that they can't get away and they made a mistake. As soon as the robot is preparing for a volley, a horse appears with blue fire in his eyes, gnawing the threads. Everyone was shocked by this, and then Leon approaches the horse. This is the king's horse that has been his companion for many years. He gets mad and gives everyone royal permission to go into battle with him, to which the others thought he was stoned. He told them that it was an honor for them to fight with him side by side with him. No one can figure out what's going on with no answer. Leon on his horse rushed to attack the boss, that he loaded his gun and did the same. Leon used the spear and the power of the saints and destroyed the cannon on the robot's back. And then the spinner psycho's computational artificial intelligence failed. It was impossible to calculate the logic of the actions of the phenomenon that appeared before him. The machine assessed the situation. It was an outdated kind of knight's battle. Fast, but the attack has a limit, it depends on the total mass. The threat level was assumed to be 0, the threat that cannot affect anything. It will be completely destroyed by the railgun. It was an analysis done by a machine. 3 seconds before, the body builds a thin barrier around itself, an action plan that differs from already recorded battles with known risks. 2 seconds before, a direct collision with a railgun shot. The approximate amount of work, Euler will become critical for the enemy even with a successful blocking. And the last second before the shot, the crazy spinner missed. The kick was not blocked, nor was there a collision with it. This meant only one thing, the robot just missed. A skill that knights use as casually as breathing. It is possessed only by the strongest warriors of humanity, a way to fulfill the laws of the universe. The divine law shining at the end of the spear, he is able to repel any ranged attack only once, without any damage. Leon's threat level is raised to the 5th, and the boss decides to retreat.